So I missed that. So maybe I should just recap again. Now, I said this is a personal leadership journey for neighborhood transformation in a transformative roundtable conversation. And we have 20 sessions all together. We began about 2 weeks ago. We began with vocational leadership. Then we also talked about personal leadership. Well, when we talk about vocational leadership, what do we mean? We are talking about you being able to discover your calling as a leader. You cannot be an effective leader if you don't know what you have been called to do. There is need for you to understand the assignment you have been asked to fulfill before you can become an effective leader. And that is what vocational leadership is talking about. And I remember I took you through a process that I call happy. That is, you need to discover, you need to know what you hate, you need to know what you are angry at, you need to know your passion, then you need to know your purpose, and then you need to know what you love to play with. That is the acronym for discovering your vocation as a leader. Now, in this session, we are going to talk about, then we also talked about personal leadership, which is being accountable to yourself as a leader, having self-government as one of your priority as a leader. And as a leader, if you are not self-governed, there is no way you can be effective. You need to be disciplined. You need to hold yourself responsible for everything that you do. And if that is not in place, there is no way you can be an effective leader. Today in this session, we'll be talking about transforming your leadership. Then the next session, we'll be talking about the 12 indisputable core value of a transformational leader. So this is what we'll be talking about in these two sessions. But we are going to begin with transforming your leadership. In fact, this is the core, or what I call the bedrock of everything we have been doing in this school of transformational leadership. Transforming your leadership is the main thing. If you cannot transform your leadership as an aspiring leader, if you cannot be transformed from inside out, there is no way you can bring about a transformation within the neighborhood where you belong. So it is essential for you to transform your leadership. And when we talk about transforming your leadership, we are talking about your journey and your engagement with life through personal leadership. As something you will notice in all our courses, you will discover that each course is a build-up on the other. So we are taking off from where we stopped 2 weeks ago, which is on personal leadership. So transforming your leadership is your journey and your engagement with life through your personal leadership. The question to answer here is, how do I begin my personal leadership journey? That is the first question you want to ask yourself. How do I begin my personal leadership journey? The second question you want to ask yourself is, how do I engage with life? How do I engage with life? Now, how do I become a transformed leader? I know we all desire to become a change agent. We want to change our world. We may not necessarily be able to change the world, but definitely we can change our own world. We can change, we want to change our place of work. We want to change the community where we belong. But the journey to changing our world begins with experiencing personal transformation. That is where it begins from. The journey to changing our world begins with experiencing a personal transformation. If you are not transformed as a leader, there is no way you can take the idea of transformation to the community where you belong. There is this story, this wonderful story I'm going to share in a moment. But before I go into the story, John Maxwell, said this statement, and it's very powerful. And I want us to pay attention to it. He said, when we are foolish, we want to conquer the world. But when we are wise, we want to conquer ourselves. I'd like you to know that it's very easy to say you want to conquer territory, you want to take over this place, you want to, in fact, it's even easier to control people and make people do what you want them to do. But the most difficult task to do in life is for you to conquer yourself, to bring yourself under subjection so that you are able to do what you are supposed to do. And that brings me to the story that I said I'm going to share earlier on, which is the story of a pastor who wanted to prepare a sermon for a Sunday service. As a pastor, every Sunday, particularly the day preceding the day you are going to deliver your sermon, you prepare, you find a quiet place, you start preparing your sermon. And this man was in his office trying to prepare a sermon. And all of a sudden, his 4-year-old son just came in and then began to distract the father. He would not allow the father to prepare the sermon. So the man thought, what will I do to engage this boy so that he can allow me to concentrate on my sermon? So therefore, the father decided to pick up a word, the map of the world that was on his table. So there was this map of the world on a very big sheet of paper on the table. So the father decided to tear the map of the world into pieces to form a kind of a puzzle. So this man gave this map of the world that has been shredded into pieces. So he gave it to this boy to go and fix, thinking that if he allows the boy to spend some time fixing the map of the world, then he will have some more time to be able to prepare his sermon. So this man moved this boy to another room to get busy with fixing the world. So this boy was now trying to figure out how best to do it. And all of a sudden, he discovered that at the back of the map of the world was the picture or the image of a man. So therefore, because this boy can relate with the man, he quickly assembled the image of the man, and by assembling the image of the man, all that the boy needed to do was to flip the picture or the image of the man to the other side, and by fixing the image of the man, he was able to fix the world. And he came running to his father, "Daddy, daddy, daddy, I have been able to fix the world." And the father was taken aback. "How were you able to fix the world?" In just, let's say, about 10 minutes, the boy said to his father, he said, "Daddy, it's very simple." He said, "At the back of the map of the world is the image of the man. And all I needed to do to fix the world was to fix the man." Now, what is the moral lesson of this story? The moral lesson of this story is that if you want to fix the world, where you need to begin from is by fixing the man. When you are able to fix the man, then you will have the required resources or the required ability or capability to be able to fix the world. And of course, the father that did not even know what to preach on Sunday suddenly was now given a sermon topic to preach the following Sunday, that if you are able to fix the man, then you will be able to fix the world. So the question now we want to ask ourselves is, how do we fix or transform the man? How do we fix or transform the man? Now, there are three basic steps or three basic things we need to take note of for the man to be fixed or transformed. Number one, to fix the man or to transform the man, you must not conform to the pattern or standard or custom of this world. By not conforming to the pattern, to the standard or the custom of this world. So that if you want to bring a change to a place, it is not by doing what they are doing that will bring the change. You have to bring something different. You have to be different in your approach. So you cannot join them and expect yourself to bring a change to a place. If you want to change a culture, for example, if you want to change the way certain people behave, it is not by behaving the way they are behaving that you will change their behavior. You have to bring a different set of behavior for that culture of that community to be changed. So you do not need to copy and fit yourself into the behavior and the culture of this world without you thinking. So don't allow the world to mold you into its own image. You are to bring in, you are the one who is supposed to impose your own behavior and your own culture into the world. So if you want to fix the world, one of the things you need to do is not conform. Do not conform. Don't be part of what they are already doing. You must not allow yourself to be subsumed in the culture of the world. You must not allow the superficial values of this world to subsume you. Now, these are the things you must avoid if you want to transform the man or fix the man. Number one, you need to avoid popular opinion. You need to avoid popular opinion. And I'm sure some of us, or probably all of us, we must have heard people say, if you cannot beat them, then join them. Now, we don't know who started this phrase, that if you cannot beat them, but join them. But this is a statement of a man that is already defeated. If you have that mentality that if I cannot beat them, then I have to join them, then it shows that you have been defeated. But if you must bring a change to the society, if you must bring a change to your neighborhood, then you cannot afford to join them in what they are already doing. You have to bring a different set of behavior for you to be able to influence your neighborhood. So my own belief is that when you believe in this statement that if you cannot beat them, you have to join them, is the intention for me is to set us up for a conformist agenda. And that is what the world is trying to do to you. The world is trying to make us to conform. But as a transformational leader, you must not conform. You have to be different. You are unique. You are different. And you must be able to bring that uniqueness into play if you must bring a change to your neighborhood. Then another thing you need to avoid in fixing the man is that you must not maintain the status quo. That is another thing to avoid. Don't maintain the status quo. That is, don't already do what people are already doing and just continue in that direction. there is need for you to take a detour. For the fact that you are taking a detour to your journey does not mean you are not going to arrive at your destination. Sometimes our destiny requires we taking detour before we can get to our ultimate destination. When you refuse to maintain status quo, then it allows you to break the pattern of the conformist agenda. When you refuse to maintain status quo, then you will break the pattern of the conformist agenda. Albert Einstein made this statement many years ago. He said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Insanity is doing different thing over and the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. You know, that is just it. You can't afford to continue doing certain things the same way and expect something different to happen. If something different must happen, for example, in Africa, in the community where you belong, in your workplace where you belong, if you want something different to happen, then you have to give a permanent, or you have to say a permanent bye-bye to the way you have been doing things before. There has to be a change in the way you have been doing before. Now, how do we fix the man? I've just told you things you need to avoid in fixing the man. That the number two thing for you to do to fix the man, having not conform yourself to the pattern of this world, is by renewing your mind. You have to renew your mind. And how do you do this? It means you have to do this by developing a growth plan to educate your mind intentionally. That is how to do it. You have to develop a growth plan to educate your mind intentionally. And these are the ways you can develop a growth plan to renew your mind. You can do it through progressive incremental change as you grow as a person. Whether you like it or not, you are going to be wiser today than you were yesterday, because certain information will be coming your way. And when you have new information, it enables you to grow. So the growth may not be so rapid, but it is progressive, it is incremental, and that is what is important. It may not be a rapid growth, but let it be a steady, progressive, incremental change. And that is how to renew your mind. Number two, you need to focus on good values. That is how to renew your mind. You cannot be thinking, you cannot make your mind to dwell on bad stuff and expect good things to come out of your mind. You cannot plant a mango tree, a mango seed, for example, and expect a cashew to grow out of the mango tree. It doesn't happen that way. So if you want to fix the man, then you need to pay attention to the things that you value, and you have to pay attention to good values. And the third thing you need to do to renew your mind is that you have to focus your attention on ethical attitude. What are we talking about ethical attitude? We are simply talking about the ability to choose what is right and reject what is wrong. That is ethical attitude. You have to focus on ethical attitude if you must be able to renew your mind. And when you put these three together, then it enables you to intentionally grow as a transformational leader. Now, the third thing you need to do to fix the man or to transform the man is by learning to know or proving what is good and universally acceptable. Now, I intentionally put learning to know, because sometimes uh, you may experience certain thing, but if you don't consciously make effort to learn from that experience, you will repeat that experience again. So that is why it is important for you, when you go through an experience, let don't just allow that experience to happen to you. You should take personal effort, or you should deliberately decide to want to know what that experience has to teach you. And that is why John Maxwell said experience isn't the best teacher. It is evaluated experience that is the best teacher. That is why some people, they make a mistake. Maybe they had a pregnancy when they were teenagers, but because they didn't learn that lesson, before you knew it, in another 2 years, they are pregnant again. Why? Because they did not learn from the previous experience. So when you go through an experience, don't just allow that experience to come and go. Let that experience go through you. Evaluate that experience, and let that experience teach you something valuable. And when you are able to do that, you will become a transformed individual. Now let's talk about the transforming habit of a leader. What are the habits? What habits does a transformational leader needs to possess before we can say, wow, Simon is a transformational leader, or Damilola is a transformational leader? What are the habits that a transformational leader needs to possess? But before I go into that, let me try to debunk certain myths that we have around leadership. That is what we need to do first. We need to begin by solving the riddles around leadership. Number one, there is a myth where which people pass around by saying leaders are born and they are not made. I'm sure you must have heard people say, are leaders born or made? Certain people believe that leaders are born, but I want you to know that that is a myth. Leaders are not only born. In fact, there is no unborn leader. Have you ever seen a leader that was never born? There is no unborn leader. So every leader is born. But the truth of the matter is, leaders are not just born, they are also made. In other words, every one of us in this school of transformational leadership, we can develop ourselves to become leaders. That is what we are saying. There is no individual that cannot become a leader. There is no individual that cannot become a leader. In fact, where you are already in your place of work, or whether you are within a family setting, wherever you find yourself having to make decisions on behalf of two or more people, you are already performing a leadership function. So we are all leaders in our own right. So leaders are not just born, leaders are also made. And how are they made? By going through a kind of developmental process, like we are doing in School of Transformational Leadership. It is in the Greek mythology that they believe that leaders are born. The Greek believes, the ancient Greeks anyway, they believe that leaders are supposed to be born. So that is why, if in those days, during the ancient Greek time, people like you and me can never be considered to be called a leader. In fact, when you are black, you are never considered a leader. But that is not true. The color of your skin does not determine whether you are a leader or you are not. We are all leaders in our own right. Another thing, another myth that people peddle around about leadership is that they say leaders must hold a position or a rank or a title before you can be called a leader. But I want to let you know that position or title is the lowest form of leadership. You don't need to own a position. You don't need to have a title. You don't need to have a rank to be called a leader. Don't wait before people make you a leader through position or title before you begin to think like a leader. Be mindful that we are all respectable leaders in all our respective domain or circle of influence. We are all leaders. I'd like you to take that as a golden word from a brother to you. We are all leaders, and don't see yourself less than a leader. Another myth around leadership is that certain people believe that leaders are flawless. That is, leaders are not supposed to make mistakes. But I like you to know, I like you to know today that leaders are not necessarily flawless. Leaders do have blind spots. For the fact that you are a leader does not mean you cannot make mistakes. But however, that does not call for a reckless living. I am not talking about leader living recklessly. That is not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about a leader who has a blind spot. And whether you like it or not, if you become a leader, you will always have a blind spot. And that is why you have people, capable people around you to help you in your area of blind spot. So, who is qualified to be called a leader? Leadership is accessible to all and sundry. Whether you are a man or a woman, whether you are old or young, whether you are a boy or a girl, whether you are educated or uneducated, leadership is accessible to all who desire or who aspire or who are aspiring to become a leader. There are no individuals that are specifically born to be leaders. I'd like you to know that. Don't think somebody is a more qualified leader than you are. We are all qualified to be called leaders in as much as we are ready to pay the price of leadership. And like I said, ironically, there is no unborn leader. Leaders are both born and they are made. Now let's talk about the precondition. We're now beginning to go into the habits of a transformational leader. So what are the preconditions for becoming a leader? What are the things that needs to be in place before you can even begin to consider the role of leadership? What are the things that has to be in place? Number one, a leader must be well thought of as being reputable. You know, as a leader, the first thing you need to establish if you're aspiring to become a leader is that you need to establish your reputation as a leader. You need to establish your reputation. And what do we mean by reputation? Reputation is when a leader demonstrates that he is very good in the area of his crafts or in the area of his calling. That is why we began with vocational leadership. You have to demonstrate that you are very good in what you have been called to do. That is how to establish your reputation as a leader. So, as a leader, you are not just thinking about just establishing a reputation alone. You are also thinking of building credibility for yourself. You start with reputation, and when you establish that reputation over a long period of time in a consistent manner, then that becomes your credibility as a leader. That is when you become a credible leader. When a leader has been consistently known to be good in the area of his vocation for a long period of time, then you become a credible leader. So that is the first condition for becoming a leader. You must establish your reputation and then build on your credibility. The number two precondition for becoming a leader is that you must be a responsible father, a responsible mother, a responsible husband, and a responsible wife. There is no room for irresponsibility when you want to become a leader. You cannot afford to be irresponsible. Responsibility must be your watchword. Number three, a leader, to become a leader, you must possess good behavior. That is non-negotiable. Nobody wants to put up with somebody who does not have good character. You must have good behavior. Number four, you must be hospitable. You must be able to accommodate other people. You must be able to show kindness, compassion, love, generosity to people around you. Those are the preconditions for becoming a leader. Number five, you must be knowledgeable and be able to teach the same. If you call yourself a leader and there is nothing you can offer people, then you are not yet a leader. A leader must demonstrate that he has knowledge in the area of his calling, and then he must be able to transmit that same knowledge to other people. That is what makes you a leader. Number six, a leader must not be given to drunkenness or any substance that can impair his or her sense of judgment. Drunkenness could be in the form of whether you are smoking India hemp, or you are smoking, or you are drinking high volume alcohol, or you are taking heroin, or you are taking cocaine, you are injecting yourself with heroin and cocaine. Anything that can impair your sense of judgment, you must do away with it as a leader. You must avoid drunkenness. Number seven, you must not be someone who assaults or abuses others physically. There are some leaders, they love to inflict physical assaults on their subordinates. You must not be such leaders. You must not be a fighting leader. That does not present you as a good leader. You must not be such person who assault others or abuse others physically. Number eight, you must not be a lover of money. I cannot say less on this. We really need to pay attention to this. A leader must not be greedy. He must not be selfish. And he must not be covetous. Unfortunately, when you look into our society, particularly in African context, this is the major problem of the so-called leaders. They are very greedy, they are very selfish, and they always want the resources of the entire country to be their own resource, to be their own personal resources. So a leader must not be a lover of money. Number nine, a leader must be a tenacious go-getter. You must not take no for an answer when it comes to the pursuit of your dream. You must be tenacious. You must be willing to give it all it takes to get to your destination. Number 10, a leader must be highly disciplined. We spoke about that when we were talking about personal leadership. A leader must exhibit self-government. You must be able to govern yourself. You must be accountable to yourself. You may not necessarily, of course, you have to be accountable to people, but most importantly, you have to be accountable to yourself. You must be able to hold yourself to high standard. Then number 11, a leader must not be a novice in his or her primary area of influence. You must not be a novice. You must not be a Johnny just come. You must understand what it takes to influence your area, your own sphere of influence, your own sphere of personal leadership. You must not be a novice. You must be well read. You must be well informed about your area of discipline. Then number 12, a leader must have a good report among all people. People must be able to say good things about you. I'm not saying you should live for people so that people can say good things about you. Of course, you are not going to be doing these things you are not going to be doing it consciously. You are not going to be doing things to please people. Naturally, when you are a good leader, people will say good things about you, and that is one of the preconditions for becoming a leader. You must have a good report among all people. Now, these are the other attributes of a leader. Other attributes that a leader must possess. A leader must be a people person. Listen to me. Leadership is absolute nonsense without people. If you are a leader and you don't have people around you, you are only taking a stroll. You are only taking a walk. If you are truly a leader must have people around them. Listen to me, where there is no people, there is no leadership. Where there is no people, there is no leadership. The basis of your leadership is because there are people. And so you must be a people person. Number 2, you must be able to mentor others. In fact, that is number 1 responsibility of a leader, to mentor others. And that is what we are doing here. Number 3, a leader must be able to organize a team. You see, you cannot carry your vision alone. You need people to support you. You need people to help you. You need people to give information, to give their own capability into the dreams that you have. So you must be able to organize a winning team that is able to execute your vision. Number 4, a leader must be able to communicate. In fact, if you are not able to communicate as a leader, your leadership will be grounded. You need to be able to communicate. You need to be, even if you are not speaking or if you are not talking physically, your body language should be able to tell people what you want per time. And that is part of communication. You must have a good communication skill if you must be an effective leader. Number 5, a leader must be charismatic. The word charisma means that you are able to move people to follow you in the pursuit of a goal. That is what charisma is. You are able to motivate people. You are able to move people into action. That is what charismatic leader does. Moving people into action. Not necessarily forcing them to do what they don't want to do. A charismatic leader does not force people to do things. He motivates, he inspires people to do things. And number six, another attribute of a leader is that he must be passionate. If you are not passionate as a leader, in fact, if you don't have passion, nobody is going to follow you. The reason why people are going to follow you is because of your passion. It's not even because of the magnitude of your dream. It is because of your passion. You must be a passionate leader because passion is contagious. When you are not passionate, people are not going to be passionate. People can be more passionate than you. It is the level of your passion that will determine the level of your people's commitment. If you want people to really be committed to what you are doing, you have to demonstrate passion for what you are doing. And number seven, another attribute of a leader is that a leader must be able to see the big picture. We are going to talk more about this in the next session. You must be able to see the big picture. In other words, you must be visionary. If you don't have a vision as a leader, your dream will be destroyed. Your dream will perish. You need vision. You need to be visionary. You need to be able to provide direction for people to follow. And you must always be the one who always have this big idea of where your community, your organization, or your place of work is going to. You must always have that big vision, that big picture of where you are going. Then number 8, a leader must be able to understand the heart of true leadership. And what is the heart of true leadership? The heart of true leadership is service to others. You are not a leader so that people can serve you. You are a leader so that you can serve people. That is second function of a leader. Number 1, the first function of a leader is to develop people. The second function of a leader is to serve people. You are not waiting to be served. You are to serve people under the influence of your leadership. Now, the context for becoming a transformational leader in the community. Now, what are we saying here? What are the things that needs to happen for a transformational leader to emerge in a particular community? What are the things that needs to happen? Here we are talking about the justification for developing leadership within the community. So what are the justifications? What needs to happen, or what are the signs that we need to see to say that leaders has to emerge in our neighborhood, in our community, in our society, in our nation, and in our country? What are the things that needs to happen? Number 1, when the number of aspiring leaders continue to grow and multiply, like we're having in School of Transformational Leadership, when people begin to aspire to become leaders and people are desirous of developing themselves as a leader, then there is need to develop, there is need to raise leaders within the community. Number 2, when a problem arose within the community that requires leadership attention. For example, it is very obvious that one of the greatest problems in Africa today is not even poverty, it is leadership problem. Because poverty itself is as a result of bad governance. That is the greatest need we have in Africa today, leadership problem. And this is what we have been called out to solve in School of Transformational Leadership. We have been called out to fix the leadership problem across the continent of Africa. Number 3, when the need of leaders becomes so obvious. Now, believe me honestly, it is very obvious in every sector of human endeavor in our society today that we obviously need leaders to emerge. And that is why I want each and every one of you to begin to see yourself as a leader that has something to bring to the table. Don't see yourself as a follow person. You have something to give to the society. You have something of value to deliver to the society. So when the needs of a leader become so obvious, then we need, that is one of the justification for developing leadership within the community. Now, so what are the criteria to look for in arriving at our choice of leaders? So when you want to appoint leaders, when you want to choose leaders, what are the qualities, what are the criteria you should look out for? Number one, you need somebody who is honest. You need an honest report about the leadership quality of that person. Somebody, that person must have or must possess honest report. And of course, part of being reputable and credible is that you have honest report. That is part of your credibility and reputation as a leader. Number two, there is need for you to have divine endowment or a particular gift. And that is the reason why we began this school of transformational leadership with vocational leadership. That is you discovering yourself, discovering what you have been called to do. If you don't have something to do, you can't be called a leader. If you don't have an assignment to carry out, there is no way you can become an effective leader. So you must discover your area of giftedness. You must discover your natural endowment, the divine endowment that you possess. That is one of the criteria for choosing leaders within the community. And number three, the third criteria to look out for in choosing a leader is that a leader must possess administrative skills. This is non-negotiable. You cannot be effective if you cannot mobilize resources, if you cannot utilize resources, if you cannot deploy people according to their talent and to their ability, according to their skill. You need administrative skill to be able to discharge your responsibility as a leader. Now let's talk about the transformational leadership now. Who is a leader? Who is a transformational leader? Now, according to Langston University defined a transformational leader as a leader who causes change in individuals and social system. A transformational leader is a leader who causes change in individual and social system. In its ideal form, it creates valuable positive change in the followers, with the end goal of developing followers into leaders. That is who a transformational leader is. It is somebody who causes change in individuals and social system, and in its ideal form, it creates value and positive change in the followers, with the end goal of developing followers into leaders. So the goal of a transformational leader is not to keep people permanently as a follower. It is to turn followers into leaders. That is the goal of a transformational leader. Now, if you read any book on transformational leadership, they will tell you these 4 things, but I have been able to modify them in a little way to suit my own. It's also close to what you will find out there about a transformational leader. In every book of transformational leader, they will tell you that a transformational leader must have idealized influence. He must have inspirational motivation. He must have intellectual stimulation, and he must have individual consideration. Now, that is what you will find in any transformational textbook out there. Now, I have been able to say it this way, that a transformational leader must possess an ideology. Now, if you don't possess an ideology as a transformational leader, there is nobody that is going to follow you. The reason why people are Christians or Buddhists or Muslims or even African traditional worshiper today is because of the ideology of those movements. Nothing more, nothing less. The reason why people follow Jesus is because of the ideology of Jesus. That is the reason. If you are a transformational leader or you call yourself a transformational leader and you don't have an ideology that people are convinced about, then there is no way you can have influence. And that is what scholars call idealized influence. You must have an ideology that moves people to action. And of course, some leaders can have bad ideology. That is why you find people like this German man that caused the World War II, Adolf Hitler. And you have various people who have led people to do bad stuff, like this guy that caused terrorist attack in the United States of America in was it 2005 or when was that? Or 2000 or 1999? I can't even remember now. Or 2000 and that was what's his name? Osama bin Laden. So people can also have wrong ideology, bad ideology. So, but as a transformational leader, you want to focus on good ideology. Number two, a transformational leader must be able to motivate others through divine inspiration. And that is what people call inspirational motivation. You must be able to motivate people. If you are not a motivator, you cannot be a good leader. You have to be able to inspire people. You are not coercing people. Leaders don't coerce people. They don't force people. They inspire people. You must be able to inspire the soul of the people you are leading. A transformational leader, number three, a transformational leader must possess a repertoire of knowledge that energizes others. And that is what they call intellectual stimulation. You must have a repertoire of knowledge. People must be able to know that you are a unique leader. You are a leader of a different caliber. They know that every answer, of course, you may not have all the answers, but majority of the answers your followers are looking for, they can always find it in you as their leader. That is what makes you a leader. And you must build yourself. It doesn't happen in a day. You have to build that repertoire of knowledge, that reservoir of knowledge. You have to build it. Number four, a transformational leader is adept in deploying individual talents. That means you are able to utilize the people that you have under your leadership. And that is what people call individual consideration. That is, you are able to match people. You are able to match their skill with a particular responsibility. You are not putting a round peg in a square hole. You are matching people's skill, people's talent, along with a particular responsibility. Now let's try to sum up what we have been trying to say. Now, these are the 4 areas of change in a transformational leader. Now, we are trying to sum up everything together now. Number 1, there must be a personal inward renewal. we said transformation has to begin from where? From within the leader himself. It has to be from inside out. So there has to be personal inward renewal, that is change from within. Then when that happens to you, then you begin to extend that change to individuals. That is, you are now beginning to have positive influence on people. Then when you continue to have influence on people, then that influence spreads into the society, into the community, into your entire workplace, or into your church, or wherever you find yourself being responsible as a leader. You must be able to you must be able to diffuse that your leadership influence from within to the community, to the neighborhood where you belong. And the fourth area of change in a transformational leader is that when you are now beginning to affect the society, then you must now begin to develop or mentor other leaders. And how do you do this? You do this by modeling leadership to them and leading them by example. So you are not just thinking you are the only leader that will be. You must also begin to think of raising other leaders who will continue with that transformational change. Because if you don't raise leaders, your vision, your dream will die. And I love this beautiful quote. It's anonymous. We don't know who said it. The quote says, "Just when the caterpillar thought the world was over, it became a butterfly." So when you think, I have become a renewed person, and that is the end of it, no, there is still another level you can go to. Butterfly literally go through about 4 stages: the larva stage, the pupa stage, the caterpillar stage, and then the butterfly stage. So you are also supposed to go through these stages as a leader. So don't just remain at the stage of personal inward renewal. You must now begin to think of how you want to develop others as a leader. Now, let's talk about the examples of transformational leaders in history. Now, these 3 people, they are so amazing to me. And every one of them, they have something, they are very connected to Africa in a way. The first person I'm going to talk about is Mahatma Gandhi. And the second person is Martin Luther King Jr. Of course, the great grandfather of Martin Luther King was an African slave. So you know that he's connected to Africa in a way. Mahatma Gandhi spent about 21 years in Africa developing his political philosophy and worldview in South Africa. So he also has something to do with Africa. And of course, Nelson Mandela was a South African himself, who eventually became the president of South Africa. Now, these are the 3 persons we are going to talk about in the next sessions, about the examples of transformational leaders in history, so that you can now begin to see yourself in the light of what they have been able to do. And I also love this quote from Ita Ash Amara. It says, "Change is inevitable, but transformation is by conscious choice." So when you want to become a transformational leader, you have to make a conscious decision for that to happen in your life. Now let's talk about Mahatma Gandhi, who is known to be a inspirer of civil rights movement. Now, Mahatma Gandhi experienced inward renewal through his mother, who is an extreme pious lady, and who will not think of taking who will not think of taking her meals without daily prayer. That was where the personal inward renewal of Mahatma Gandhi began from, because he was nurtured by a pious woman who is very religious. She spent a lot of time praying and fasting, and because of that, Mahatma Gandhi was able to experience personal inward renewal through her mother. Mahatma Gandhi, by reason of that influence on him, Gandhi vowed total abstinence from meal, alcohol, and women to his wife and mother when he went to London to study. You can see that the influence of his mother is now beginning to play out in his own life. When he went to London to go and study law, he vowed that he would never come close to any woman, that he would never drink alcohol. And of course, Indians, they don't like eating cow. And he said he was never going to eat meat. And these are the vows he made to his mother and to his wife. Now, I want you to take note of this. The name Mahatma was first applied to him in South Africa in 1914, and it means great soul, venerable, something you venerate, something that is special in itself. The name that is now commonly used throughout the world. Do you know Mahatma is not his real name? Mahatma was given to Mahatma Gandhi because of the personal inward renewal that is displaced. And that is why they refer to him as a great soul. And that is the meaning of Mahatma. It means somebody that is venerated, somebody that is held in high esteem. Mahatma Gandhi employed non-violent resistance to lead the successful campaign for India's independence from British rule. He was one of the persons who first of all used the non-violent resistance philosophy in a large scale. Of course, other people used it. Martin Luther King Jr. used it effectively in the US, and of course, to some extent, Nelson Mandela also used that same philosophy. Mahatma Gandhi inspires movement of civil rights and freedom across the world. That is who a transformational leader is. They don't use force to get things done. They motivate people. They inspire people. Then, although Gandhi was very shy when he was young, but his only companion were books and school lessons. And so that is why you cannot afford not to develop yourself. You remember, one of the things you need to do to fix the man, you need to renew your mind. And that is what Mahatma Gandhi did when he was young. He was always renewing his mind by reading books and his school lessons. Then, finally, Mahatma Gandhi spent 21 years in South Africa, where he developed his political view, ethics, and politics. So Africa is really a birthplace of many things. There have been great ideas that have been nurtured in this continent. And why can't we do it for ourselves and bring the change that we want in our society? Now, one of the greatest quotes from Mahatma Gandhi says, "Be the change you want to see in the world." That's powerful. Be the change you want to see in the world. Now, let's talk about Martin Luther King Jr. I call him the dreamer. Martin Luther King Jr. experienced personal inward renewal through the inspiration from Christian beliefs and the non-violent activism of Mahatma Gandhi. As a Christian minister, King's main influence was Jesus Christ and the Christian Gospels, which he would quote in his religious meeting and in public discourse. He advanced civil rights for people of color in the United States through nonviolence and civil disobedience. He was the visible spokesman and leader in the civil rights movement from 1955 until his assassination in 1968. King was one of the leaders of the 1963 March on Washington, where he delivered his I Have a Dream speech on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Martin Luther King Jr. Day was established as a holiday in cities and states throughout the United States. Beginning in 1971, the holiday was enacted at the federal level by legislation signed by President Ronald Reagan in 1986. And one of the famous quotes of Martin Luther King Jr. is, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." Now let's talk about our very own Nelson Mandela, the anti-apartheid activist. Nelson Mandela experienced personal inward renewal by being baptized in Methodist church at the age of 9, attending church every Sunday. Although some biographers stated that he never had a strong religious faith, but what we know was that when he was young, he had some connection with church. And it was from that experience that he had from the church that we can say laid the foundation for the personal inward renewal that he had. He was the first South African black president elected in a fully representative democratic election. His government was focused on dismantling the legacy of apartheid by fostering racial reconciliation. He was committed to non-violence protests like Mahatma Gandhi. Mandela served 27 years in prison. Of course, we all know that. People thought he was going to die in prison, but his vision was greater than those who imprisoned him. He survived the prison and eventually became the president in South Africa. He became an elder statesman and focused on combating poverty and HIV/AIDS through charitable Nelson Mandela Foundation. He is held in deep respect within South Africa, where he is often referred to as the father of the nation. Nelson Mandela was known for his ability to find common ground with very different communities, and he has this as one of his favorite quotes: "It is in your hands to make a better world for all who live in it." Now, as I conclude, I'd like to conclude with this short statement that it takes a changed person to change the world. If you are not changed from inside out, forget about changing the society. Thank you. Do we have any question? If we have questions, let's go ahead and ask our questions before we move to the next lesson. Do we have question? Or if you want to type your question on the chat, that will be acceptable. If you have questions, let us know. Anybody having question? Okay, somebody, let me pull that question out. Okay, somebody is asking, in finding ourselves, how do we remain focused on our goals? Now, automatically, when you find yourself, when you discover yourself, you, for the fact that you have found yourself, enables you to focus. And when you focus on that which you have discovered about yourself, you discover that it doesn't just end up a narrow thing, it begins to expand. Somebody said, what you focus on expand. I know some of us knows this kind of glass that we call a lens, or what do they call it now? This magnifying glass. You know, when you focus magnifying glass, when you focus it very well using the sun, when you focus on the paper, what do you think will happen to that paper? It will catch fire. So when you focus your attention very well on a particular area of discovery about yourself, you catch spiritual fire, as it were, which means you become explosive to yourself and to the people around you, for good, not for evil. So that is what I can say. When you focus on what you know to be right about yourself, it helps you as you take your journey further. It helps you to journey ahead. Any other question? It could be a remark,